Now let's talk about the Primal Weevil. This boss looks like it's mildly terrifying. I mean, never mind the fact that this thing has like a freaking bloodlust for me, or I guess we call it hemolymph, I don't freaking know. But, okay, let's get this out of the way. Yeah, this boss is actually really freaking hard for me. Big problem is just, I take a lot of damage, and my god, the damage this thing does is actually crazy high. Like, this is when I really started to realize just how different HP had to be treated in Bug Fables compared to Paper Mario. Because my HP still isn't that high, and, well, probably the bigger reason why I was struggling so much is because my super blocks were also very poor. Like, I could maybe do a standard block pretty often, but super blocks were really freaking difficult for me to do. And some of these attacks take out a lot of HP, way more than I would like to say. Needless to say, I struggled here. But Princess did help me at least with like attacking sometimes, even though, you know, the Primal Weevil will sometimes summon an ally for itself. So, you know, something I think is a perfectly fair fight, even if I found it also to be pretty infuriating at times. But hey, we get the almighty Ice Rain, so after a few of these, and you know, we can just keep our TP up, it's not that bad. I lost like 4 times, maybe a few more than that, but you know what? After that, we managed to win, and that's what matters at the end of the day, right? This isn't a Nuzlocke. After that battle, however, I thought I could use a break, so I instead went on to go back to Callie to give her like the silk that she got stolen from her, and I battled her with Kabu at the same time. And I mostly ignored Kabu. I just wanted to beat Callie as fast as possible, and this is really where Ice Rain was just doing a ton of damage. I don't really have much else to say though, because this fight is not supposed to be very hard. I kind of just did this to do it, and that's really all I can say. That being said, let's talk about Zamoth. So this fight is very interesting as far as how it treats this challenge, because I can't actually attack until Leif snaps out of his trauma state or something, whatever you want to call it. And that means that there's a chance that I'll just get hit turn 1 and there's nothing I can do about it. Also, Strong Start doesn't really work for Leif either because his turn gets eaten up by the fact that he's paralyzed. And of course, if Leif does get hit before I get a chance to use a type of attack or some kind of move to defend myself, well, that's a forced reset because the Abomination I have to use to knock out both Kabu and V is going to hurt me a lot too. But assuming Leif does not get targeted, well, I use my Abomination, and here's the funny thing about the Zamoth. Its projectile attack lowers your attack stat, but it also poisons you, which means that I don't have to use weak stomach or some kind of poisonous item to poison myself because the AI does it for me. And if the AI poisons me, well, I have no guilt whatsoever because now I have Reverse Toxin equipped, Eternal Venom equipped, Poison Defenders, Poison Attackers, and a whole bunch of Ice Rays I can spam. Yeah, general rule of thumb, don't poison me, because if you poison me, or really any bug in this game, all hell's gonna break loose. There really isn't much to say also after that because I just spam Ice Rain and it does a lot of damage because I believe that Zamoth is actually weak to ice also. And combine that with how much attack I was able to get on myself thanks to like Hard Charge and I guess also the Poison Attacker medals as well. Yeah, the damage adds up extremely quickly. This isn't even freaking fair. That being said, I just did this to do it. Also because Block Heal is a very good medal to have, but I can't use Frost Bowling because that is another move that requires using both Kabu and V. But hey, I figured I may as well do the boss fight because otherwise you'd probably ask about it. Immediately after that, I went to challenge the False Monarch. This was a very easy boss because I had first plating and it didn't get used up until like after the halfway point because I forgot to bring Abominations with me, which yeah, my bad, but at the same time I did that to handicap myself because I didn't want to have any more meat shields and I still tried to keep Leif in the front if I could help it. But yeah, this fight I just again used Ice Rain a bunch and I eventually won, and by eventually I mean quickly, because bro, if there is a king that exists, it is freaking Uwu. Also, the Colosseum exists, and I can only really say one thing that really mattered here, and it had to do with Zamoth, but before that point, well, Frost and Poi were just Ice Rain go burr, so are the monsters that we found in the Forsaken Lands, which we mostly ignored. But Zasp and Mothava were also victims to Ice Rain, at least Mothava was. Zasp almost managed to beat me by using Taunt on me at the very last turn, but it wasn't quite enough, and I was able to barely win even if my health was getting really low. Peacock Spider also exists, and for this fight, it was basically just I got poisoned by the spider that he summoned, and then I just mainly just spammed using Ice Rain a bunch when I actually had the TP for it, and it was really just that simple. Honestly, in this challenge, just spamming Ice Rain is oftentimes just the best thing you can do, so I really had nothing else to really say as far as like what I did in a fight other than just doing that. Sometime later, I also went on to fight Carmina, and I have nothing to really say about her. I just went, used Ice Rain a bunch. Learned also that this attack that she uses cannot be blocked at all, which I did not at all expect for that matter. But yeah, beyond that, I have very little to nothing to say at all about this fight. She was not hard at all. Which, for the record, neither was the Ultimax tank, if I'm being honest. Like, as if Ice Rain was not doing enough damage to him, but he also poisoned me later on in the fight, which I just think, bro, this guy really does not care anymore. But yeah, this fight was just Ice Rain go burr, and then after the tank explodes, it was just more attacking it the same, and there really was just nothing else to say here. It's at this point, I really started to feel like this challenge was not really as interesting as I thought it would be. Like, for the moment, it was fun to just spam Ice Rain and everything, but if we really, like, boil it down to, like, its core, there's really not much else as far as strategy to, like, talk about here. It's just Ice Rain, they die, throw a few hits, and you win. Like, is it me, or is anyone else here underwhelmed by this challenge so far in this video? Like, it was fun at first with bosses like Spooter and maybe even the Watcher, but now it's just bleh. Like, despite how much more limited partners are in Paper Mario with the 1,000-Year Door, I think there could be a lot more to talk about than this. After a while, this just gets kind of boring and monotonous. You think the Deadlanders are going to be some trouble, but they really don't. Especially with Strong Start equipped. Like with Ice Rain, the Deadlander Beta does not survive past the first turn, and using a second one beats the Alpha one too, like in record time. And the Gamma, all it does is just attack like both Leif and then V twice, and that was not really anything worth talking about either. Same with the Fire Cut, it's actually fine after we beat the Roaches. Ice Rain, Frigid Coffin, let Princess clean up, and then Maki finishes off. The fight's done. Well, I guess enough of this, like, less than stellar attitude. Let's talk about the Wasp King, the final boss in this challenge. This has to be a hard boss fight, right? Well, he was hard enough for as I did end up losing my first attempt because I was not able to block properly for the firewall that he would use, and that did just enough damage to knock me out. But then I equipped Status Relay and then kind of just went at it again, hopefully to not lose because, you know, if I just had better guarding, I probably would have won that. And I then still happened to just spam Ice Rain until he went down. So that was underwhelming, but you know what? At least the Everlasting King will be pretty freaking difficult. So funny thing about the Everlasting King, but did you know that every time you reset a new phase, any bugs you had that got knocked off from the current phase actually get revived with like 1 HP left, which means that against my own will, the game is forcing me to have more meat shields, and I only brought 1 Abomination, and even if I brought more, I don't want to use more of those because I don't want my, I don't want Leif to get knocked out since his health is not maxed out. So I really had no choice but just to take it. And from here, I really just have no idea what else to say, but the Everlasting King is actually weak to ice, so I do more damage, and its defense point doesn't even really matter at the end of the day. And thanks to the auto revives for both V and Kabu, there were times that he would just not attack Leif at all, and that may even have actually allowed me to continue fighting for even longer. Because my blocks in this fight aren't really that great either. It's a shame, but I ended up winning this fight on my first attempt, and I didn't really have to worry too much about taking damage either on Leif because the Everlasting King just refused to take this super easy target that was clearly the only one that was threatening its life. And with that, we managed to beat Bug Fables the Everlasting Sappling with only Leif, but that doesn't necessarily mean this challenge is over. In fact, if the challenge did end here, honestly, I'd be really freaking disappointed, but we do have 2 more fights to cover. And if you played this game before, I hope you're excited for them because they are definitely the highlight of this challenge. Team Maki and Team Slacker. And yeah, they're both pretty dang freaking difficult. Before we start this fight, just be aware that up to this point, I've been collecting any Super Peppers as well as Iron Seeds that I can actually access at this point, so my attack and defense are as high as they possibly can be. With that being said, just look at how much damage I'm getting faced down by both Maki and Kina. Also, because Maki has 3 defense, Princess cannot do anything here, so she is actually completely useless in this fight, and attacking with her only serves to increase Kina's attack power. Long story short, they do a lot of freaking damage to me, and I really can't do much besides try to survive as long as I possibly can. But if I try using items, I'm gonna get knocked right back down to low HP, so it doesn't really help here. I have to have Block Heal equipped, and I have to super block constantly if I want to survive. Of course, the tried and true strategies of knocking out Kina early of course apply here because she doesn't really contribute much if she gets knocked out. Unlike with Knockout Yin, it both revives Kina and makes Maki hit harder. And knocking out Maki early just makes it so that Kina gets really freaking pissed off too. To say this took me several attempts would be an understatement. It took me a lot more than several. It took me at least dozens. It's a genuinely hard fight. but if I'll be honest, I found Team Slacker to be much freaking worse. I can summarize my problems with Team Slacker just by saying this. Delilah's bazooka is a freaking monster to deal with on its own. Like, there's no arguing that Stratos is extremely strong, but Delilah has such a ridiculous toolkit with that one bazooka that she can just summon at will that it's actually ridiculous. Just imagine having to super lock every single one of these individual hits that she fires off at you. You have an idea just why this is such a difficult fight for only using a single bug. And of course, that's also associated with statuses like being sticky, so you can't use items, being inked, so you can't use like Ice Rain to hit harder. It's an honest-to-god nightmare of an attack to deal with. The only saving grace here is just that Ice Rain is a ridiculous attack to use, and fortunately, it also got me some very lucky luck on my successful attempt, where I managed to free Stratos as he was charging, and he was in KO range for another Ice Rain. Which sounds ridiculous, and it is ridiculous, but honestly, I think it only can really properly be explained if you see it for yourself. So why don't you also check out these videos right here, or do my Leaf only challenge in full. Click the video on the screen right now, and it'll take you right there. Until then, this is Phantom A, and thank you for watching this video.